Hello, spoiled princess.
Touch me again, and I'll kill you.
She built an empire at 19 when her parents died, and her brother abandoned her, leaving her alone with vultures betting she would fail. He survived the streets as an orphan, learning that mercy was weakness and trust got you killed. Neither of them wanted marriage, but were faced with an ultimatum to either get married or lose everything. They had 6 months to decide if they hated each other more than they loved power. Hey there, lovelies. Thanks for stopping by. If you want to see how two people who started as enemies end up choosing each other every single day, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss what happens next. Drop a comment and let me know if you think they'll make it, or if this whole thing is going to crash and burn. Now, let's get into it. Zara Williams built an empire from ashes. At 19, she inherited blood and broken dreams when her parents died in a car accident that smelled like murder. Her older brother, Julian, vanished. The same week, leaving her alone with vultures circling and men twice her age betting she would crumble. She did not crumble. 6 years later, she ruled New York with calculated precision, every scar hidden beneath Burberry and silk. Jin Park learned survival before he learned to read. Orphaned at 8, the streets taught him that mercy was weakness and trust got you killed. David Lee found him half dead in an alley and gave him purpose. Now, at 30, Jin controlled the Park syndicate from Los Angeles to San Francisco. David had been dead 5 years, but his lessons lived in every ruthless decision Jin made. Neither wanted marriage. Neither had a choice. Russian Bratva boss Nikolai Volkov launched coordinated strikes that burned warehouses and painted streets red. 17 of Zara's crew died in New York. 23 of Jin's men were slaughtered in LA. The attacks were surgical, devastating, designed to destroy them both. Then the attorneys appeared with documents that changed everything. Edward Hayes sat across from Zara in her Manhattan office, his aged hands trembling as he opened the will. Her father had written a clause she never knew existed. Marriage within 6 months, or the empire reverted to Julian. The brother who abandoned her would inherit everything she bled to build. Elder Kim delivered the same ultimatum to Jin in Los Angeles. David Lee's will contained identical terms. Marry or watch rival Michael Kim's faction absorb the syndicate. They met in Vegas on neutral ground. Zara walked into the private suite wearing cream Burberry. Her mother's gold necklace lay hidden beneath silk, a talisman against the violence ahead. She had researched Jin Park thoroughly. Cold, brutal. A man who solved problems with bullets and fear. Jin waited in black Tom Ford, every line of his posture radiating controlled menace. He had his own intelligence on Zara Williams, spoiled Mafia princess playing dress-up in her dead father's world. She would be a liability, a weakness he could not afford. Their eyes met, and mutual contempt crystallized instantly. "You're late," Jin said without standing. "You're rude," Zara replied, taking the chair opposite him without waiting for an invitation. The negotiations were warfare disguised as conversation. He demanded she relocate to Los Angeles. She refused to abandon New York. He outlined terms that treated her like decorative property. She called him a primitive thug with delusions of control. Back and forth, voices rising, until both attorneys intervened before blood was spilled. "This is business," Edward Hayes reminded them. "Your personal feelings are irrelevant." "Then let's sign the contract and be done with it," Zara said coldly. Jin's jaw tightened, but he reached for the pen. Their signatures dried on paper that felt like a death sentence for them both. 10 days later, they married in Los Angeles. The ceremony was lavish and menacing in equal measure. Armed guards lined the walls while crime, Families from 3 states calculated angles and alliances. Zara walked down the aisle alone in custom white. Her father dead, her brother gone. No one left to give her away. She held her head high and pretended the loneliness did not cut. Jin waited at the altar in perfect tailoring, his face carved stone. When she reached him, his hand was cold around hers. The officiant spoke words that meant nothing. The kiss was brief, meaningless, a business transaction sealed with lips that might as well have been ice. The reception stretched into torture. Jin spoke Korean to his associates, effectively erasing her from every conversation. Zara sat alone at the head table, smiling for cameras while humiliation burned in her chest. This was her future, this cold, contemptuous stranger who could not even pretend civility for one night. When it finally ended, they drove to his estate in separate cars. The fortress disguised as a luxury became her prison. Mrs. Chen, the housekeeper, showed Zara to her room. Not their room, her room. Down the hall from Jin's, far enough that she could pretend this marriage was anything but a cage with expensive furniture. Jin left before dawn and returned after midnight. They were strangers sharing an address, nothing more. Zara ran her New York operations remotely, video calls with Marcus Hayes filling her days. Marcus had been her father's right hand and became hers when she inherited chaos. He was the closest thing to family she had left, his steady presence a lifeline across 3,000 miles. "How bad is it?" Marcus asked during one call, reading the exhaustion in her face. "It's fine," Zara lied. "Zara, it's what it is, Marcus. I do what I have to do." She learned Korean from Mrs. Chen between phone calls and strategy sessions. She memorized exits and guard rotations, treating the estate like enemy territory because that was exactly what it was. Jin barely acknowledged her existence. They passed in hallways like ghosts, not speaking, not looking, not anything. 2 weeks into the marriage from hell, Volkov struck again. 3 combined locations hit simultaneously, professional, coordinated, devastating. Zara was in Jin's office reviewing shipping routes when his phone exploded with alerts. Then hers started ringing. Marcus shouting about an attack in Brooklyn, Jin barking orders in Korean to someone named David Kang. "We need a war room," Zara said, already pulling up maps on her laptop. "Now." Jin looked at her, really looked at her for the first time since the wedding. Then he nodded sharply. "Follow me." 12 hours blurred together in synchronized chaos. They worked without speaking, communication happening through gestures and shared screens. Her strategic brilliance mapped patterns in Volkov's attacks. Jin's tactical genius designed responses that were swift and brutal. By evening, they had contained the damage and sent a message back, written in blood and fire. Zara leaned back in her chair, adrenaline finally crashing. Jin stood by the window, exhaustion evident in the set of his shoulders. "We make a good team," he said quietly, not looking at her. Zara studied his profile, surprised by the admission. "We do." Something shifted after that night. Small things at first. Jin started asking her opinion on strategy sessions. She engaged with his operations, offering insights he had not considered. They had dinner together occasionally, actual conversations about territories and threats and the ever-present danger of Volkov. Not warm, but less frozen. 3 weeks into the marriage, neither could sleep. Zara found Jin in the kitchen at 3 a.m, standing by the window with a glass of whiskey. She almost retreated, but exhaustion made her reckless. She poured her own drink and joined him in silence. "Why did Julian leave?" Jin asked suddenly. The question hit like a physical blow. Zara took a long drink before answering. "I don't know. Our parents died and he just disappeared. Left me alone at 19 with an empire falling apart and men betting I would fail within a month." "Did you almost fail?" every single day for the first year. She laughed without humour. I was terrified, but I was more terrified of proving them right. Jin turned to look at her, something unreadable in his dark eyes. You're stronger than I thought. You thought I was weak. Yes. No apology, just honesty. Zara should have been angry, but found herself respecting the bluntness instead. Why did David Lee take you in? Jin's face shuttered briefly before he answered. He found me in an alley, half dead from a beating. I was 8. The orphanage was worse than the streets, and the streets were killing me slowly. He paused, fingers tight around his glass. David gave me food, a bed, purpose. He taught me that power was the only protection that mattered. Is that what you believe? It's what I know. They stood in the dark kitchen as dawn crept through windows. 2 people raised by violence and loss, finding unexpected common ground. Hours passed in quiet conversation, walls crumbling word by careful word. When Zara finally went to bed, she realized they had been sitting side by side, without tension, for the first time since they met. A week later, Zara announced she needed to return to New York. No, Jin said flatly. Fire exploded in Zara's chest. Excuse me? Volkov is targeting you. New York is too exposed. I'm not your property, Jin. I have an empire to run. You can run it from here. Like hell I can! She stood, fury making her voice shake. I did not survive 6 years building my father's legacy just to hide in your fortress like some helpless trophy. They fought viciously, voices rising, until the house itself seemed to vibrate with rage. Then Jin did something unexpected. He compromised. You go, but my security goes with you, non-negotiable. Zara wanted to refuse on principle, but she was not stupid. Volkov was escalating. Fine. She flew to New York with 4 of Jin's men shadowing her every move. The meeting was set at an upscale Manhattan restaurant, rival crew leaders gathering to discuss territory disputes and Volkov's increasing aggression. Negotiations started tense and deteriorated rapidly. One of the rivals lunged across the table, murder in his eyes. Zara moved with lethal precision. She disarmed him, slammed his face into imported wood, drew her weapon as his associates reached for theirs. The restaurant erupted into chaos. Gunfire shattered crystal and mirrors. Zara dropped behind the overturned table, returning fire with calculated accuracy. She took down 2 threats before realizing she was flanked. The door exploded inward. Jin moved through the chaos like death in a suit, putting bullets exactly where they needed to go. He reached Zara in seconds, his body a shield, as they neutralized the remaining threats together. Under a minute. Professional, synchronized. Silence fell heavy with gunsmoke and consequences. I was wrong, Jin said, looking at her with something new in his eyes. I underestimated you. Zara met his gaze, blood on her designer suit, adrenaline still singing through her veins. Yes, you did. They flew back to Los Angeles together. Jin sat beside her on the private jet instead of ignoring her. They discussed the attack, the implications, Volkov's next likely move. Easy conversation built on mutual respect that had not existed before. Back at the estate, their dynamic shifted like tectonic plates rearranging. Jin came home earlier. They strategized together over dinner, existing in the same space intentionally instead of accidentally. The distance between them in the massive house felt smaller each day. One evening, Zara found herself in the garden under stars that looked nothing like New York's light-polluted sky. Jin appeared beside her without announcement, 2 glasses of wine in his hands. Thank you, she said, accepting the glass. For New York. You did not have to follow me. Yes, I did. Something in his voice made her look at him. His expression was unguarded for once, walls down in the darkness. Maybe this does not have to be as terrible as we thought, he said quietly. Maybe not. Zara's heart did something complicated in her chest. We could be friends, or something. Jin turned to face her fully, and the air between them changed, charged, dangerous. He leaned closer, his gaze dropping to her lips. Jin. David Kang's voice shattered the moment. Volkov just hit the warehouse on 5th. We need to respond now. Jin closed his eyes briefly, frustration evident, before stepping back. I'm coming. He left Zara alone in the garden, heart pounding, wondering what almost happened and whether she wanted it to happen again. The response to Volkov's attack was swift and devastating. Jin and Zara coordinated their forces with practiced ease, the partnership forged in crisis now second nature. When the dust settled, there was a small celebration with their inner circles. That was when Sarah Chen appeared. She was delicate and beautiful, moving through the room with easy familiarity. She touched Jin's arm while laughing at something he said, her affection unmistakable, even if Jin seemed oblivious. Zara felt something dark and possessive twist in her chest, jealousy, raw and unexpected and completely unwelcome. She had no claim on Jin beyond a contract and forced proximity, but watching Sarah's hand linger on his sleeve made her want to break things. That's Sarah, Mrs. Chen said quietly beside her. Jin's childhood friend. She has always loved him. That's nice for her, Zara said flatly, draining her wine. That night, Jin found Zara on the balcony outside her room. The celebration had ended, but the tension remained, thick and unspoken between them. You left early, he said. I was tired. Liar. Zara turned to face him, defiance and confusion warring in her chest. Jin stepped closer, close enough that she could feel the heat of him, smell his cologne mixed with whiskey. Zara. Her name in his voice did dangerous things to her pulse. His phone rang. Always business, always something. But this time, Jin did not move to answer it. He just looked at her, conflict written in every line of his face. You should get that, Zara whispered, not meaning it at all. Jin's jaw tightened. The phone kept ringing. The moment stretched taut as wire, ready to snap. Then he stepped back, breaking whatever spell had wrapped around them. Good night, Zara. He left her on the balcony, the phone finally silencing in his pocket. Zara gripped the railing and wondered when exactly she had started falling for the man she was supposed to hate, and what it would cost her when everything inevitably fell apart. 2 days later, Zara was in the library reviewing shipping manifests when voices drifted from Jin's study. Sarah's voice, desperate and breaking. Jin's, uncomfortable and confused. David Kang's, strained, with something Zara could not identify. She moved towards the doorway without thinking, drawn by instinct that screamed danger. I'm pregnant, Jin. Sarah's words cut through the air like bullets. It's yours. That night, your wedding night, when you met me at the bar. Time slowed to a crawl. Zara's hand froze on the doorframe, her body going cold from the inside out. What are you talking about? Jin's voice held shock and denial in equal measure. Sarah held out her phone, hands trembling. I have photos. You don't remember, do you? You were so drunk. Zara watched from the doorway as Jin stared at the screen. His face went pale, colour draining until he looked like death. She could see the images reflected in his eyes even from across the room. Jin shirtless in hotel sheets. Sarah beside him, intimate and undeniable. I don't remember, Jin whispered, looking up at David Kang with betrayal written across his features. I don't remember any of this. David Kang stood frozen, his expression unreadable but wrong somehow. Everything about this scene felt wrong, but Zara could not process past the roaring in her ears. Jin's gaze found her in the doorway. Horror flooded his face. Zara. She felt something inside her chest crack clean through. The library floor felt unstable beneath her feet, the walls closing in. She had started to believe, started to hope, started to fall in love with this man who was supposed to be her enemy. Explain what? Her voice came out ice cold, detached, belonging to someone else. That you slept with her on our wedding night while I was alone in this house. I don't remember it, Jin said desperately, moving toward her. Zara, I swear I don't remember. That doesn't change what happened. She stepped back, rejecting his approach. It doesn't change that she's pregnant. It doesn't change anything. Zara turned and walked away with perfect posture, every step controlled. She climbed the stairs to her room and closed the door with a quiet click that felt more final than slamming would have. Then she packed, every item folded precisely, every piece of the life she had been building carefully dismantled and placed in luggage. Her mother's necklace went into its case, her laptop secured, clothes arranged with the same strategic precision she applied to business deals. Jin burst through the door without knocking. Please, let me explain. There's nothing to explain. She continued packing without looking at him. The past few weeks meant something. What we were building, it meant something. Zara finally looked at him, and the devastation in his eyes almost broke her resolve. Almost. It was a mistake. One I won't make again. Zara, please. I need to leave. Now. She zipped the last bag and pulled out her phone, texting Marcus. He responded immediately, outside in 10 minutes. Jin stood in the doorway watching her gather her things, defeat written in every line of his body. When she moved past him, he caught her, arm gently. I never wanted to hurt you. Then you should have been more careful. She pulled free and walked away. Marcus waited outside with a car, his face carefully neutral. He loaded her bags without questions, held the door while she slid into the back seat. They drove through Los Angeles as the sun set, painting the city in colours that should have been beautiful, but just looked like blood and fire. Zara stared out the window, dry-eyed, heart in pieces. She had been a fool to let her guard down, a fool to think this marriage could become something real. A fool to fall for a man who shared a bed with someone else on the same night he married her. The 7-hour flight to New York passed in mechanical silence. First-class luxury felt like a cage. She sat perfectly still, replaying every conversation, every moment she had let herself hope. The kitchen at 3 a.m, his admission that they made a good team, the almost kiss in the garden before David Kang interrupted. All of it lies, all of it meaningless. Her penthouse overlooked Manhattan from dizzying heights, floor-to-ceiling windows, framing the city that belonged to her. This was her empire, her territory, her life. She had survived alone for 6 years before Jin. She would survive alone again. Zara stood at the windows as dawn broke over New York, painting buildings in gold and shadow. She made herself a promise in that moment, watching her city wake beneath her. Never again, never let anyone close enough to hurt her, lock her heart away so deep even she could not find it. At 3 a.m, she finally broke, slid down the wall in her bedroom, and cried for the girl who lost her parents in a suspicious accident, for the sister abandoned by her brother when she needed him most. For the woman betrayed by a husband she had started to love. Then she stood up, washed her face with cold water, fixed her appearance in the mirror. The reflection staring back was harder now, colder, more dangerous. The Duchess was back. 2 months passed like winter. Zara threw herself into work with obsessive focus. 6 a.m. until midnight, 7 days a week. She expanded territory aggressively, made moves that were calculated risks bordering on reckless. Her crew watched her transform into something frozen and untouchable. You need to sleep, Marcus said during one strategy session that stretched past 2 a.m. I need to work. Zara, don't. She did not look up from the reports. Just don't. Jin called daily. She blocked his number. He called from different numbers. She deleted voicemails without listening. He sent flowers to her penthouse. She gave them to the doorman. He sent letters. She burned them without opening. In Los Angeles, Jin made his own descent into chaos. David Kang watched his sworn brother make reckless moves against Volkov that could get them all killed. Jin could not remember that night, and the blank space haunted him like a ghost. Sarah was there, pregnant and needing support, and he tried to do the right thing while dying inside. Elder Kim called on a Tuesday afternoon. "Miss Williams, we need to discuss contractual obligations." Zara set down her coffee. "I'm listening." "The marriage contract requires cohabitation. Minimum 2 weeks per month in Los Angeles, or both empires are forfeit. You've been in New York for 2 months. People are talking." She closed her eyes. Of course, nothing was ever simple. "When do I need to return?" "This week would be advisable." Flying back to Los Angeles felt like returning to a crime scene. Zara took a suite in the guest wing, as far from the master bedroom as architecturally possible. They would fulfill contractual obligations, nothing more. Living in the same house as someone who shattered your heart was exquisite torture. They moved around each other like ghosts, haunting separate dimensions. Zara ate meals alone in her suite. Jin disappeared into his office for 18-hour days. They existed in the same space, but never connected, hyper-aware of each other's presence, but careful never to touch. Business calls required them to be in the same room. They were professional, distant, speaking to screens and teams, but never each other. Everyone on every video call noticed the careful distance, the way they never made eye contact, the ice where warmth had started to grow. 3 weeks after her return, neither could sleep. Zara wandered into the library at 3 a.m, seeking distraction in books. Jin was already there, standing by the window with whiskey in hand, staring at nothing. They froze when they saw each other. For a moment, neither moved. Then Jin spoke. "I'm going insane!" His voice was rough, exhausted, hearing you move around your wing, catching your perfume in hallways, having you so close but completely unreachable. Something in Zara broke. "You think this is easy for me? Being in this house, knowing that while I'm here, you're thinking about her, about the baby, about a future that doesn't include me." "I don't have feelings for Sarah." Jin turned to face her fully. "I never have. She's been in love with me for years, but I've never seen her that way. But she's carrying my child, and I have to do the right thing. That doesn't change anything." Zara's voice dropped to a whisper. "Because at the end of the day, you still slept with her, still got her pregnant, still betrayed me on our wedding night." "I've been investigating." Jin set down his glass. "The timeline doesn't match up. Sarah acts strange when I ask detailed questions. David Kang looks at her with pain and knowledge he won't explain. Something's wrong with the whole story." Zara wanted to hope, wanted it desperately, but hope had nearly destroyed her. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying, give me time to find the truth, please." Against every instinct screaming at her to refuse, Zara nodded. "Okay, but if you're wrong, if the truth is exactly what it appears to be, this ends. No more trying, no more hope." "Understood." Tokyo required their presence 3 weeks later, International Crime Summit. All the major players gathering to discuss territories and treaties. Jin and Zara had to present a united front. The devoted couple while dying inside. Zara wore deep red, a power suit that cost more than most people's cars. Jin looked devastating in charcoal perfection. They stood together at the summit, finishing each other's thoughts, appearing madly in love, No one saw the chasm between them. During the formal dinner, Jin's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and his face changed. I need to take this. Zara watched him walk away, already knowing Sarah. Calling about the pregnancy. When he returned 10 minutes later with some excuse about business, she saw through the lie immediately. The rest of the evening was agony. Back at the hotel, Zara was preparing for bed when someone knocked. She opened the door to find Jin, still in his dinner clothes, desperation in his eyes. I can't do this anymore. He pushed into the room without invitation. I can't pretend I don't love you. Fire exploded in Zara's chest. You just lied to me at dinner, took Sarah's call and told me it was business. Because I knew you'd react like this. Like what? Like someone who's tired of being lied to. They fought, voices rising in the luxury hotel suite. He insisted something did not add up about Sarah's story, that the photos might lie, that his complete memory blackout was suspicious. She threw his evasions and half-truths back at him. What do you want from me? Zara finally asked, exhausted. Jin stepped closer, close enough that she could feel the heat of him. A chance, just one chance to prove what we had was real. Zara looked at him, really looked at him, saw the same devastation she felt reflected in his dark eyes. Okay, but if the truth is what it appears to be, this ends. No more hope, no more chances. I understand. They stood there, inches apart, the Tokyo skyline glittering behind them. Jin's hand came up to cup her face. She should have pulled away, but found herself leaning into his touch instead. Zara. The moment stretched electric and desperate, full of months of longing. He leaned in, his breath ghosting across her lips. She tilted her face up, closing the distance. Jin's phone rang. They both froze. Then reality crashed back, and Zara stepped away, the spell broken. Jin cursed, pulling out his phone. His face went pale. It's Marcus. Zara, it's about Julian. Her brother had resurfaced, not for reconciliation, but because he had made a deal with Volkov. The $8 million she had given him for debts had been used to sell information about the Williams Park alliance to the Russians. Now, Volkov had Julian hostage. He wants you to withdraw from the coordinated attack, Marcus explained over speakerphone, or Julian dies. Zara's decision came ice-cold and instant. Let him die. He betrayed me. Zara, Jin said quietly. He chose Volkov over his own sister. Why should I choose him over everything we've built? Jin's phone rang again. Sarah. Complications with the pregnancy. He looked torn between staying with Zara and going to the hospital. Go, Zara said flatly. I'll fly back tomorrow. We figure out Julian together. He left. Zara stood alone in the Tokyo hotel room, drowning in decisions that all felt impossible. Vegas at midnight, rain pouring down like the sky was bleeding. Zara and Jin coordinated 7 assault teams across 4 cities from a temporary command center: New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Miami. Every piece of Volkov's empire hit simultaneously. Marcus led the extraction team for Julian at Volkov's Vegas stronghold. Complications arose when Volkov himself appeared with reinforcements. We're pinned down, Marcus reported over comms. Need backup now. Zara and Jin drove through rain-slicked streets at dangerous speeds, the city a blur of neon and darkness. They arrived to find Marcus's team taking heavy fire, trapped in a warehouse district. Ready? Jin asked, checking his weapon. Always. They went in loud, weapons drawn, moving in perfect synchronization, partners in every sense that mattered. The warehouse erupted into controlled chaos, their teams providing cover fire while Jin and Zara pushed deeper. Volkov waited on the main floor like a king holding court. Cold blue eyes, scarred neck, casual menace radiating from every pore. Julian knelt beside him, bloodied but alive. The happy couple. Volkov mocked in accented English. So predictable. You came for your brother. That makes you weak. Or it makes me human, Zara countered, weapon trained on his chest. Firefight erupted, 10 minutes of choreographed violence. Zara and Jin moved like dancers, anticipating each other perfectly. His shots cleared her path. Her strategy positioned them for maximum advantage. Volkov's men fell one by one. When only Volkov remained, Zara stepped from cover. This is what happens when you threaten the alliance. We don't just defend, we destroy. She shot him in the shoulder, non-fatal, but devastating. Police sirens wailed in the distance. They extracted Julian and disappeared into the Vegas night. Back at the hotel, covered in dust and adrenaline, alive and victorious, Jin pulled Zara into his arms and kissed her. Really kissed her. Deep, desperate, full of months of longing and denial. She kissed back with equal fervour, all walls crumbling, all pretense gone. His hands tangled in her hair, her fingers gripped his jacket. They broke apart, gasping. I love you. Jin breathed against her lips. I love you too, Zara admitted, the truth finally free. But Sarah and the baby waited in Los Angeles. The truth was still unclear. Their future was still uncertain. Now we figure out what really happened, Jin said, and then we decide if this is real. Zara kissed him again, softer this time. We already know our answer. Los Angeles, 3 days later. They drove to Sarah's apartment together, a united front for whatever came next. Sarah answered, looking fragile and pregnant, hope lighting her eyes when she saw Jin, then dying when she noticed Zara beside him. We need to talk, Jin said gently, about what really happened. David Kang appeared in the doorway behind Sarah, his face haggard. Tell them the truth. Tell them what you did to Jin, what I did. The confession spilled out in agonizing detail. Sarah had drugged Jin's drink at the bar on his wedding night. Not enough to hurt him, just to make him relax and forget his stress. When Jin nearly passed out, she panicked and took him to a hotel. She posed his unconscious body in the bed and took photos, manufacturing evidence of intimacy that never happened. She left him there. Jin woke around midnight with no memory, confused and sick. He called David Kang to check on Sarah. David found Sarah at home, drunk and devastated, crying because, even with her plan, she knew Jin would never choose her. In her intoxicated state, she thought David was Jin and initiated intimacy, calling him by Jin's name. David, who had been in love with Sarah for years, let it happen even though he knew she was imagining his brother. The baby was David's, not Jin's. They kept the lie for months. Sarah out of desperation, David out of guilt and love and shame. Jin sat in silence, processing betrayal upon betrayal. Zara watched him struggle with rage and relief and grief all at once. I was unconscious, Jin finally said, voice hollow. You drugged me on my wedding night, staged photos to destroy my marriage, let me believe for months that I had betrayed my wife. I'm so sorry, Sarah sobbed. Jin turned to David. You're my brother. You let me suffer when you knew the truth. I thought the baby might be yours too, David said miserably. I only pieced together the timeline recently. I didn't know what to do. Jin looked at Zara, desperation and hope warring in his expression. I didn't betray you. I never touched her. I was drugged and manipulated. I know, Zara said quietly, relief and fury mixing in her chest. Jin turned back to Sarah and David. The baby deserves a father who knows the truth. Build something real. Give that child a family built on honesty, not lies. To Sarah, his voice went cold. What you did was unforgivable, but you're the mother of David's child. We'll be civil for the baby's sake. Nothing more. They left the apartment. In the car, Jin finally broke down, months of guilt and pain pouring out in harsh sobs. Zara held him while he shattered. I thought I'd destroyed us, he choked out. This wasn't your fault. None of it. 3 days later, Jin appeared at Zara's New York penthouse, unannounced. He dropped to one knee with a new ring. Simple and perfect. Zara Williams, will you marry me? Not because we have to, but because I love you, because I choose you, because I want to spend the rest of my life proving you made the right choice. Tears streamed down Zara's face. Yes, I'll marry you again. For real this time. 6 months later, Vegas again. Neutral ground transformed into celebration. The wedding honoured both their heritages, African American and Korean traditions woven seamlessly. 200 guests split between their worlds, enemies becoming family. Zara walked down the aisle alone because she did not need anyone to give her away. She was giving herself freely. Jin watched her approach with pure love and awe written across his face. Their vows were everything the first ones were not. You're the strongest person I know, Jin said, his voice steady despite tears. You made me want to be worthy of you. I promise to choose you every day forever. Not because I have to, but because I can't imagine choosing anyone else. Zara smiled through her own tears. You made me believe in partnership when I'd only ever known how to be alone. I promise to trust you with my heart. Even when I'm scared, I promise to choose you every day, not because a contract says I must, but because my heart won't let me choose anything else. The kiss was deep, passionate, real. The reception was magnificent. Food from both cultures, music and dancing, speeches that made everyone laugh and cry. 1 year later, the Manhattan penthouse combined crew had their dinner celebrating another successful quarter. Julian, recovered and slowly rebuilding trust, raised a glass. Marcus toasted partnership. David and Sarah, now married with baby daughter Mia, toasted family. Jin and Zara toasted choosing each other. Later, on the balcony overlooking the city, Zara handed Jin an ultrasound photo. 8 weeks. We're having a baby. Jin cried. Happy tears this time. Our baby is going to have the strongest mother in the world. They stood there overlooking New York, 2 empires united, 2 hearts completely whole, a family beginning. The Williams Park Alliance was the most powerful force in their world. But more importantly, 2 people who started as enemies found their way to love. Messy, hard-won, absolutely real. So there it is. 2 people who started as enemies, forced into a marriage neither wanted, somehow found their way to something real. If you made it this far, thank you for watching their story. Hit that like button if you enjoyed the journey and subscribe so you don't miss more stories like this. Drop a comment and tell me what you thought. Did you see the twist with Sarah coming? Were you rooting for them from the start, or did they win you over? I want to hear your thoughts. Share this with someone who loves a good enemies to lovers story. Thanks again for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.